the cross-section of people that watch MasterChef aren't very neurodivergent-friendly.
Interesting.
And so I didn't have the easiest time when it aired. What is this wokeism? Another one saying they're autistic. So derogatory, but also like death threats.
Really?
Yeah, really bad. Like, people like that should be taken outside and shot.
Let's talk about Gregg Wallace. There's been a lot of talk about him in the autistic community. What was your experience?
So many things to say.
Let's have it.
I complained about him 3 times. Not a nice human being.
MasterChef UK semi-finalist Vanessa D'Souza isn't just cooking up a storm. She's redefining kitchen culture by sharing her life with autism, ADHD, and now sensory processing disorder. After decades of masking, Vanessa's diagnosis in her 30s was a complete game changer. Now proudly known as the Autistic Chef, she uses cooking not only to calm her mind, but also as a creative outlet for developing sensory-friendly recipes. Let's get into it. Let's see how great minds think differently. Tell me about your relationship with your brain before you were diagnosed.
It's interesting because when you hear a lot of late diagnosed, especially females, the narrative is always the same. You know, I didn't fit in. I felt like an alien. I felt something was wrong with me. I just didn't have the understanding of why I couldn't cope as well as other people in the same environments. A lot of it went under the radar because I'm an only child. And surprise, surprise, my parents are clearly also neurodivergent. So they don't put themselves in uncomfortable positions naturally. So kids' birthday parties, etc. I didn't go to many.
Okay.
And birthday parties for myself were done in our house with only people that my parents would invite. It was very selective. It's interesting.
That's interesting. So, yeah, and that's not, as you say, that's not the story you always hear. This norm was created that you could, be part of.
Correct. And live in.
So then tell me about getting assessed and why you wanted to get assessed and...
Live life completely obliviously until I think for a lot of people when COVID hit, it was a real game changer where it's like, wow, the relief I have of not going to an office 5 days a week, not having to make the small talk. And I think a lot of people struggled with their mental health in that period of lockdown. And mine, I was thriving. I was living my best life. And bear in mind, I was single at the time, lived alone. So I was extremely isolated more than most, you know? And then I was kind of forced into kind of making friends with neighbours because obviously you need some social interaction. And it was my neighbour who used to go on daily walks for the 1 hour a day that we were allowed. It was so obvious to him that I was autistic.
Okay.
Because of the need for routine, the sensory issues when it came to, it's raining, what do I do? It's windy, what do I do? Etc. And it all kind of came to light from there.
And what did you know? What were your thoughts, beliefs, understanding about autism then?
I've come a long way. Let's put it that way. Very ableist, very stereotypical. You know, I can't be autistic. I'm like not a boy. I can speak. I'm also not a child. So that started the mass journey to kind of uncovering what autism really is. My relationship with being autistic. And bear in mind, back then, there just wasn't the information there was on social media that there is now. So that really wasn't a route that I could go down that kind of affirmed what I thought. And I just faced a lot of backlash with GPs not believing me and also just saying, well, even if you are autistic, well, you're almost 35, you work a job, you live independently. I suggest that you just get on with life. Our wait lists are 7 to 10 years. So I was like, okay, fine, does make sense. But my black and white brain needed an answer.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, but you kind of justify it at the time. When so many doors are closed in your face, you're just like, okay, what other avenue do you go down?
Sure.
Even the right to choose at the time was just quite ridiculous.
Okay.
It's got a lot better since.
Yeah.
So effectively, I went private
And was ADHD in your sphere?
Absolutely not on the card.
Yeah.
So I think I'm autistic. Let me just go down that one path.
Yeah.
And then they all came in like Pokemons thereafter. It's never just one, is it? It's the autism, the ADHD, the sensory processing actually is probably the highest on there, even though that doesn't actually form its own diagnosis, which I find bizarre because if it did, I think most people will have autism, ADHD, and sensory processing. And I think because they're merged into the DSM, it's autism and ADHD are associated with sensory issues.
Yes.
And it's
rather than it being pulled out as a separate
because there
thing.
are a lot of autistic people that have no sensory issues.
Sure.
So I find that I think in time, maybe if we look back on this in a decade, we're probably going to find another roadmap where it's like, oh, autism and ADHD can be co-occurring.
Yeah, I mean, we could only diagnose it first 12 years ago.
Exactly.
Never the two shall meet.
Exactly. 2013, I think, is when they discovered actually they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. So you went down this autism path.
Yes. And then through that diagnosis, all of the other paths open, the ADHD next. And then I'm now unpacking all of these.
So when were you diagnosed autistic?
5 years ago now.
Okay.
I'm nearly 40. So I was just turning 35, just got into a relationship. So it's actually really interesting because my now husband met me when I thought I was autistic.
Okay.
Went through the kind of, should I explore this diagnosis? It's a lot of money. I also have a mortgage. I recognise how privileged I am to be able to have paid for that diagnosis and then get the diagnosis and kind of try and unpack it thereafter. And now he's just seen the whole transition, basically, of me being quite ableist against myself to very neuroaffirming to now to advocate, basically.
Yep. And what do you think? I know he is here, but he's not in this room.
Yeah.
If I asked him the sort of Vanessa then and through those 5 years, what kind of journey do you think he would describe?
I'd say a difficult one. I think that he would now say I'm authentically myself, which is great, but it causes a lot of tension and it's hard to be understanding sometimes. Yeah. He has ADHD in a very male stereotypical way, and that really, really clashes with my autism. And so it's tough, but we find a way.
Yeah.
There's always a coping strategy, but somebody does have to lead on that.
Yes.
And I think that's what a good relationship is. It's not always 100% to one person. It's always not 50-50 either.
No.
So it's about moving that, what's it called?
The needle?
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a constant push and pull.
Exactly.
And I know that, my wife has sat in that chair and basically said, oh my God, I couldn't handle it. Like, great, you're being you.
Yeah.
Good for you, genuinely. But also that also is not always so good for me.
Exactly.
And that's part of the learning process, I guess, isn't it?
I do think that people need to be more honest about it, because I think a lot of the content out there and the things that people talk about is all positive. Like, oh yes, one partner's neurodivergent, the other one's not. This is how we find this amazing solution. And it's like, I don't think it's that easy sometimes. And I think more people need to talk about that grey area in between where you're like, wow, I'm really digging deep here and this is going against everything that I need to do and how it needs to be done. But I recognise that I need to do it for the other person.
And you absolutely do that, Vanessa. I don't know that I've ever probably shared like online when I'm really struggling.
Yeah.
Why? How do you do that?
Primarily for myself, actually. It's a way of me dealing with my own feelings. I have a post that is still going viral, and it's a poem that I wrote about people saying they want to accept autism, but actually it's only when it's convenient to them. You're too loud, you've got a problem, you're too this, you're too that. And actually, you just don't want me to be myself. That's the bottom line.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how many people, thousands of people have saved that, shared it. It's obviously resonated with other autistic people. But the thing it hasn't resonated with is the people that actually need to understand that.
Yeah.
And that poem came as a direct result of me really struggling with family members.
Okay.
You know, postpartum is a time where when you have a baby, everyone wants to be around, everyone wants to be in your space, but then it's probably way more than normal. You know, what is my normal anyway, of seeing people maybe once a month, once every quarter.
Yeah.
And this is extended family. And it really made me realize it doesn't matter how much advocacy I do, is it reaching the right people?
There's a real danger as soon as you mention the word neurotypical, and as soon as it becomes them versus us, you know, it's this delicate balance of like the neurodivergent community just not talking to itself. And I've seen that with non-alcoholic drinks.
Yeah.
You get a non-alcoholic drinks conference and everyone's talking to themselves, when actually the goal is go and talk at a drinks conference and it be integrated. There is no awareness problem in my view. If you ask someone if they've heard of ADHD, they will say yes. We have an understanding kind of problem way before we get to this acceptance piece. Like
100%.
But to your point, if we're only talking about, well, if we're only talking to ourselves and if we're only talking about the positives, it's really easy for people who are not neurodivergent to go, pipe down, don't believe you, etc. But when you're really struggling, how do you muster that? I'm really struggling and I'm going to tell people about it.
Well, it's a release for me.
Yeah.
I wrote that poem to get my feelings out on a piece of paper. And then what I did was I couldn't do that to camera. It was just too difficult.
Okay.
It was very raw. So I just did a video montage of just random things, like I was eating a chicken nugget in one, you know? And it's like 2 years ago, you know, a long time ago, and just did a voiceover. And I found that was the easiest way for me to put out that content. People resonated with it. I wished that the family members that it related to actually didn't just like it, but really thought about the content in there and thought, is this relatable? Am I part of this? But that's, I think, where the disconnect is.
What do you want your family to understand?
Truly, the understanding to just listen, to not be generic in, you know, it's quite easy when people throw out phrases of, you know, there's a lot of parent content online now where it's, you know, your toddler is having a meltdown. They're having a hard time. They're not giving you a hard time. I see that a lot.
Okay.
I see that a lot. And now a lot of neurotypical parents are posting that, you know, as awareness, so to speak. What does that actually mean? And how is that translating? Do you understand why your child or even adult is having a meltdown? It's 1, because of environment, 2, probably because of people as well, or both.
Yeah.
And I try now actively, after quite a few therapy sessions, to explain myself because it's part of my brain process. So I'll give you a good example. We were at a restaurant a couple of weeks ago and a family member by accident spilt wine.
Okay.
The glass fell, it smashed, wine went everywhere, including me.
Okay.
Now, in that moment, I had to run to the bathroom because I knew that I was going to have a meltdown. It was nothing to do with the fact that I have wine on me, but I knew that it was coming and that outburst would not have been pretty. Obviously, I'm not 5. I would have just had a meltdown there and then.
Sure.
I go to the bathroom, I compose myself, I come back, and I think the logical thing to do is to explain what I am going through so they understand. Unfortunately, it's seen as dramatic. It is seen because they can't relate to what I'm feeling, and people often can't relate to things that they just don't understand.
Sure.
And so I'm trying to say I was already struggling in this environment because it's a Friday night, it's a busy pub, we're also away for the week on like a family trip. Therefore, This is a new environment. It's very loud. I can hear the guy with the cutlery in the restaurant. I can smell everyone's food on this table, and that guy's fish absolutely reeks. Like, it's just not pleasant for me.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we're sitting by a window which has a radiator on. So it's like an old pub. There's like a draft coming through the top. There's heat coming through the bottom. I also am very aware of the baby. So I'm already struggling with all this sensory everything. And now half this side of my body is dry and half this side of my body is wet. Yeah. And it's just now too much.
Yep.
And it's like, for God's sake, Vanessa, it's just a bit of wine. You can buy a new outfit. You can go home and change. It's fine. Nobody died.
Yeah.
And how do you make somebody realise that it's not you being dramatic in that moment? And then it's just this awkward silence where it's like, okay, no one wants to trigger Vanessa, so let's just all sit inside. It's just awful for everybody.
Plastic cups, please. No drinks. No drinks for anybody.
Yeah. So how do we move past that where I actually get people to truly step into my shoes and think, okay, I don't understand why she's got these sensory issues, but I can imagine if I was in a nightclub now rather than a restaurant, maybe that's what she's experiencing.
We were talking before we started recording about children and being curious. And I guess there's two kinds of reactions, aren't there? One is, and ironically, they're both out of curiosity, but one's really negative. So the response of kind of going, why are you over dramatic? And why is that such a problem for you? And like, nothing bad has happened. What's the big deal? Is one way, which sounds like that's what you got. The other way is like, oh, that's really interesting that you feel like that. Kind of tell me about that. Like, what could be different, or how could I help?
Yeah.
Or, wow, I couldn't even think that could happen because I just saw a glass fall over.
Yeah.
And they're both like, they're different energies, right?
Exactly.
But they're the same. It's still about being curious. It's just kind of being able to go, okay, I didn't experience it like that, but you did.
I think one's open-minded, the other one actually isn't.
Yeah. The other one sounds almost, there's an aspect of feeling threatened by, your reaction isn't the same as mine.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep telling you it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Because that will mean it's not a big deal for you.
Yeah.
Tell me about ADHD and autism relationship.
You know, a lot of people say that their autism fights their ADHD and it's a constant pull. And I think for me, subconsciously, my autism leads. And I'm very grateful for that because otherwise I would get nothing done. And I think my life would be very chaotic. My autism really counteracts and balances out my ADHD. I'd be late for everything if it wasn't for autism. The bottom-up thinking as well is like my best and worst trait because if you mix the autism with the ADHD, like the bottom-up thinking means that you just, everything is being taken in, everything. Whether that's, subjects of interest, etc. How do you pick?
Yeah.
How do you pick?
How have you learned to get the best out of both, I guess?
A journey, first of all. So I started off having to label everything because if I can't recognize, that's how I recognized it first. I became obsessed 5 years ago with knowing what the autism is, what the ADHD was. Yeah. And then the bits in the grey area, I was like, well, what is this? Yeah. But now I have a better understanding. I go with it. And that's, I think, part of the impulsivity. And my pattern recognition skills are elite. So I'll know what's coming beforehand. So often you don't have to kind of overthink it too much.
And when are you at your best then?
In the kitchen.
Okay.
That was, an area of interest that actually was born out of a necessity. Because as a child, I had such extreme sensory food issues. And I'm nearly 40.
Which your grandmother recognised.
Yes. My parents were just, I think it's so hard now because I'm a parent. So
Sure.
I get it. You just want the best for your child. And I completely appreciate that. So it's like, we must feed her veg. I don't think there was like 5 a day back then, but we must feed her veg, fruit, this, that. And it doesn't work for me. Veg and fruit are like the hardest things for me to eat. I got to the age where I am now and I don't eat a single vegetable.
Nothing.
Barely. Maybe like carrots, sweet corn. There's a few foods that I will have.
What about peas?
Oh, peas, but they have to be frozen peas.
Yeah.
No like mushy peas, none of that. And only a certain brand, by the way, because I can taste the difference between, a supermarket brand and a brand that we all know.
Yeah. You can say my family grow peas for bird's eye.
Oh,
it's okay.
Okay, yeah, it's bird's eye.
Frozen gets a big bad rap. It's blooming brilliant.
It really is. And also for somebody that does have ADHD, and even though cooking is my special interest, like frozen stuff saves me from, the mortuary that happens in the fridge.
So tell me about what it is about vegetables.
It's the sensory side of things for me. And my senses are so heightened when it comes to taste and smell in particular. It's not about the visuals, actually. I can smell the sulfur smell in broccoli from upstairs if somebody's cooking it. So imagine what that is in my mouth. Like it's just, I can't do it.
What about mushrooms?
I've learnt to tolerate mushrooms to the point where actually I made a porcini ragu on MasterChef. I mean, I got slated by the Daily Mail for it because they don't believe that porcini and blueberries are a match, but they really are. But for me, it's a big win. And I personally chose that recipe because mushrooms and blueberries were my nemesis at one point. Because blueberries are so wildly different, right? One can be quite firm, one can be super squidgy.
Yep.
Sometimes you can get like really seedy ones. The pop in the mouth, which I do like the pop in the mouth, but it depends on the temperature of the pop in the mouth. Like if it's a cool, fine. If it's like a warm,
no, nobody wants a warm blueberry.
Exactly. And then you've got the skin. It's just, there's a lot. Do you appreciate there's a lot going on? And if you've got heightened senses, it's a no. So fruit, I actually went on a Channel 5 documentary and I can't tell you, I think I had 10,000 inquiries to my website because of my description of raspberries. Of, parents basically saying, oh my gosh, thank you. You now have explained why my, neurodivergent child or child with ARFID or feeding difficulties won't eat a raspberry. And I never thought about it in this way because, I went on national TV and said, raspberries are my nemesis because look at it. Look at the hairs on this raspberry. Like, it's like putting an animal in your mouth.
It's right? Like a caterpillar.
Exactly. Plus there's seeds. Plus you're not sure if it's a squidgy. It's the same, going back to the blueberries, not sure if it's squidgy or if it's a firm one. Yep. And so I'm the psychopath that, will be in like a supermarket squeezing things like grapes through the packet, to see, is this a punnet I can buy?
Yeah.
Let me go all the way to the one at the back. Fruit is much better for me than vegetables, that's for sure.
And what about the difference between eating these things and cooking with them?
Oh, I can cook with no issues.
Okay.
Because I'm not the one then experiencing the sensory.
I mean, handling them, chopping them. Let's talk about onions.
Yeah. I mean, I won't lie. On some very difficult sensory days when there's just a lot going on and executive function is a little bit lower, I will take shortcuts and I do struggle with some textures. The other day I was having a really tough day and my husband really can't cook, bless him, but I had to get him to chop the chicken because the texture of the raw chicken just wasn't going to work for me on that day.
Okay.
But the next day I was fine.
Okay.
So sometimes it's just very dependent on the load that I'm feeling that day.
Sure.
But then like onions, for example, I throw in a blender. And sometimes I blend them and I freeze them.
Yeah.
So then I just take out what I need.
Yes. What do you love about cooking? Why is cooking your special interest?
One, because I have control over what I eat and how it's presented and given to me, because I have so many issues, sensory issues, I should say, even with foods touching, certain foods touching. It's not really acceptable at my age to walk around with a kid's divider plate with Mickey Mouse on it. But you find coping mechanisms.
There should be an adult one of those.
I don't walk around with a plate in my kid's nappy bag for me, unfortunately. But I find ways, where you make chip barriers so that sauce doesn't touch. I'm Indian, so I absolutely love rice and curry, but I can't have the wet curry touching my rice until I let it. Okay. My parents still think it's wild that I need to eat certain foods with like a teaspoon.
Okay, yes.
Over any other spoon. And they are also
Autistics love teaspoons, I have learnt.
Yeah.
If anybody that knows me or works with me is listening, I think I've probably got, not lying, 200 teaspoons.
I don't blame you. I also, should I admit this? I steal teaspoons if it's a good teaspoon.
Yeah, me too.
So we were recently traveling and we were in a lovely airport lounge and I was like, oh, this is meant for coffee, but this is a really good spoon. So I took like 10.
Yes. I'm a big fan of the teaspoons. So tell me how you organise your kitchen. Tell me about your kitchen.
Oh gosh, yeah. No one can be in my kitchen. I'm a bit like Gordon Ramsay when it comes to things like that. I'm very organised and very systematic. So, And
don't you dare put anything back in the wrong place. Oh gosh,
yes. I organise my fridge in I would say, a very ADHD friendly way. So it's the things that you see first. So actually, the door of the fridge is where the most important items are. The rest of the mortuary void is the things where I usually buy and then end up not using or having to do like a last minute salvage. Oh, what can we make? Which the ADHD part of my brain absolutely loves.
Yeah. The ready, steady cook.
Oh, honestly, it was a lifelong dream of mine to go on that show because I'd just be so good at it. The thing that I wanted to do the most on MasterChef was all of the challenges where it wasn't walk into a pantry and pick loads of things, because that's the thing I would struggle with the most, right? Walking in and thinking, oh my God, there's just like a whole room worth of stuff. And actually, that did happen to me after the semi-finals. And I had to go in with a strategy of like, when you go in, you only look at one area. So I only look there and I just pick 4 things and I make something with those 4 things because I have confidence in my skills.
Yes.
Which, it's wild because people went in with a whole strategy. Like they prepared things in their brain, like a fish recipe, a meat recipe, a pasta recipe, a dessert. And then they go in there and they find those things or as close to those things to make what they've prepared. Whereas I'm like, I trust my skills and I feel like it's cheating, actually, having a pre-prepared kind of thing. I went in and I only picked 3 things. But yeah, I would have loved if you lifted up a cloche and there was a surprise thing there. And I think that really tests people's skills.
Yeah.
But apparently, they've scrapped that.
Yeah. I spent 6 months at Prewleith cooking school after I left school, and God, I got sick of chopping onions and carrots because we had to do that every bloody day. Yes. Where did this sensory processing, can you remember when that idea, thought, concern came into your mind?
Through the autism process. It was very prevalent that the majority of my autistic issues were very related to my sensory differences, I should say.
Yes.
I am very sensory sensitive in a lot of areas, predominantly food, with some other things too.
And what do we know about SPD? Let's acronym it.
So it's obviously different for everybody. And you'll have some people that are hyper or hypo. So either you're sensory seeking or you're sensory avoidant in that situation. And you can be both. They're not mutually exclusive. And I think that's what's the difficult thing, because I am both.
Food is a big thing for you, but sensory processing disorder, I'm guessing, is not just food.
No. So I experience it also with sort of weather, wind, rain, water generally. So I love a shower. I love a bath. But the whole process, it's not even about the transitions, because we all know autistic people can struggle with transitions. If you remove the transition from that, it's the whole wet to dry. It's very difficult for me. So I can go a whole holiday we could be in the Maldives. I won't get in the sea and I won't get in the water, like the swimming pool sometimes, just because it's just sensory overload for me.
Okay.
And it's obviously dependent on how hot it is, because sometimes you can overcome that. I have a lot of sensory issues with my feet.
So what do you think about the fact I climbed Ben Nevis barefoot?
Yeah, is a no-go for me. Good for you.
So what have you learned? What have you learned that works?
I have learned to, one, not avoid it, but two, just find a coping mechanism or a strategy that works for me. It's so easy to not put yourself in an uncomfortable position, right? But actually, no growth really comes from there. And it's that fine balance of not putting yourself out too much that you go into burnout or an overload.
Yes.
But trying.
Which is another of those great sort of ADHD potential opportunities of being creative, solving problems, fixing, trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying different solutions.
Yeah.
What tips do you have for home cooks around making it simple? And could be how to organize your kitchen, could be how to work a recipe. How do you simplify some of this when maybe you have high sensory aspect or ADHD chaos? Mm-hmm. How do you make this simple and nice and enjoyable?
For me, I take away the decision paralysis. Sometimes I call my dad and I say, what should I have for dinner? It's easy. He knows what I like, what I don't like. Put the pressure on someone else.
Okay.
If you struggle with decisions, take shortcuts. If it's a executive dysfunction day, use the frozen onions. Have a girl dinner. Have a snack board. That's great. Picky dinners are like one of my favorite things to do. And just don't put too much pressure on yourself. People say you have to make complicated meals or you have to eat junk food. You don't. There is a happy medium. For me, there is anyway. I'm a big meat eater. So I personally choose things like steaks that can be cooked in 5 minutes. Easy. Find your faves, stick to them. People say variety is like the spice of life. Yeah. It isn't. Yeah. Stick to what you know, keep it simple, and take away the decision.
I like that. Let's talk about restaurants and pubs and that sensory side.
Yeah.
Because of the environment being difficult, mm-hmm. people don't go.
Yeah.
What would the ideal restaurant, like the dream restaurant from a sensory perspective, look like for you?
So, lighting is important. I love a very dimly lit, kind of romantic style restaurant, somewhere private. So I often ask for the table in the corner that kind of sits together rather than opposite. I need to be able to see out, but I also don't want to see everything. So when you have two people sitting not opposite each other, but next to each other, that helps me more. Mm-hmm. And also, nobody wants to face a wall. My husband really hates it when he has to face a wall having ADHD. Like, he needs to see what's going on. So we have to find a balance between us both.
Yep.
Sound, nothing that's too loud, too wild, just nice and civilized. Mm-hmm. And for me, the key is having a menu that is online, but also you see what the food looks like. And I'm not saying bring back the laminated pictures that you get when you go to Asia and those kind of like kebab even kind of restaurants, but a happy medium where, a lot of people and restaurants post things on their Instagram. Some of those lovely pictures in a picturized kind of menu would be so helpful for me, because my husband is incredibly impatient. We get to a restaurant, he's like, I don't want to look at the menu, you decide. So he takes the decision paralysis away by saying, you decide.
Yeah.
He'll eat whatever. Yeah. He's got no sensory issues. But for me, he wants to order straight away.
Okay.
Because it's like, bam, 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 on to the next. I need to take time to absorb the environment, but more often I need to look at what everyone else is ordering so I can see what it looks like.
Ah, interesting.
So that guy's smelly fish that we were talking about in the other pub, I've now known that smell doesn't work for me, but also it's on some like wet lentils, which won't work for me.
Yeah, okay.
And that's not really transparent from the menu.
No, of course not.
And often like people are doing this like very Gordon Ramsay style, like lentils, cauliflower, harissa. what does that mean?
Yes.
Like, what does that mean?
I see.
It's like,
I'm a big fan of the, don't tell me about the style.
yeah.
Just tell me about the ingredients, because I will choose based on the blend of ingredients.
Right.
Of
Interesting.
like, if you tell me that it's, you know, I don't know, apples and mulberries and cherries.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds kind of a nice blend. I don't need to know kind of what it comes in, how
wow.
it comes. Because I'm just focused on, do they make sense?
Interesting.
Do I feel like they conjure a colour to me? And if I can see the colour of that blend of ingredients, and if there's harmony, happy. But you saying that, I feel like restaurants should have lookbooks.
Yes. As long as it's accurate,
restaurants.
though, because that's the whole other thing. You can't have, you know, a lovely looking burger and then it turns up looking, you know, a little bit sad and sorry.
Yeah.
Because, well, literal thinking.
Yeah. How do you think then we, like, look, we know we've got hospitality, big challenged industry. Ironically, high over index of neurodivergence within hospitality, with estimates at like 50% of the hospitality industry. What could restaurants, hospitality do to get more people who don't want to go because of, you name it, neurodivergence?
Yeah.
What could we do?
Well, one thing I want to do, because I don't think I can speak for a whole, you know, industry, but one thing that I want to start doing when I have a bit more capacity postpartum is go to restaurants that I do and actually blog about them in a visual way, in an unbiased way as well, because I just find that a lot of this kind of content out there is everything's amazing. Sure. I had the best time. No, talk to me about, could you hide in the toilets if you need to? You know, what is the floor like? Yeah.
Could you find the toilets?
Yes. And that's another thing. Was there a menu online, or was it from 2 years ago? And actually it's a complete like menu of the day. I hope that more restaurants would advocate for that. And, you know, in the future, maybe there's an autistic chef Michelin guide. Yeah. You know, like, why is a tyre man running the show? Why can't there be an autistic chef approved guide somewhere?
Yeah.
So I'm like putting that out to the universe.
Yeah, but I also kind of go, if you asked everybody, would you like to be able to find the loos easily? It's good universal design principles of like, yeah, we all bloody would. Yeah. Of course we would. Yeah. I can't stand it when I don't know, you know, when you don't know where you're going. Sure. We're talking about some simple considerations, not expensive adjustments, but simple basics of like, can I read your menu?
Yeah.
Is it simple to find the loos? Can you know.
Can certain things be deconstructed on the menu?
Yeah. If you're going to look after my dietary requirements, great. Yeah. If you're going to have a choice of great drinks across all ABVs, but I think there could be more we could do that, you know, just starts to make some of these places a bit more inclusive.
For sure. I would love to do a supper club at one point that's just very neurodivergent friendly.
Yeah, the most like ND friendly
100%
dinner.
Yeah. And you don't have to talk to people if you don't want to.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Oh, wouldn't that be a dream? Yeah. Let's talk about MasterChef.
Yeah.
Why did you want to go on MasterChef?
I have loved that show for a long time. It's been a special interest, you know, food, MasterChef, TV shows generally that involve cooking. And I just thought, I'm going to apply. And I actually didn't think that I would get a spot on the show because it's quite difficult. I know people that have applied every year. Like my dad's applied for 3 years in a row and not even got a phone call. So it was kind of like I did the application not thinking it would go anywhere.
Okay.
And then when the opportunity landed, I was like, of course I'm going to take it. But I was presented with quite a difficult situation because I'd only just been diagnosed and I was still coming to terms with my autism diagnosis myself. So other than my parents and like close family, no one knew about it. And it's out there for life, right? Sure. It's probably going to be on iPlayer for the next decade and then reruns maybe on Netflix or something, right? And if I don't take this opportunity to be my authentic self, even though I'm not ready yet to maybe tell the world I'm autistic, am I going to regret this? And I thought to myself, yes. But I wasn't quite ready to fully share this kind of stuff. But I did, and I'm so glad I did because it resonated with the right people. But I would say the cross-section of people that watch MasterChef aren't very neurodivergent friendly.
Interesting.
And so I didn't have the easiest time when it aired.
Okay. Tell me about that.
It was pretty awful. You can imagine the backlash you'd get being on like a show like Love Island or whatever. But it was just a bunch of people online, Twitter, social media, everywhere. Like, it's not even me posting, by the way, because MasterChef post great content.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is this wokeism? Another one saying they're autistic. This and that. Like, honestly, it's awful. Some of the comments, so derogatory, but also like death threats.
Really?
Yeah, really bad. Like, people like that should be taken outside and shot. That was one of the comments. Yeah. Awful. And there's only so much that like a production team can help, they can oh, don't look
sure.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Of course you're gonna look.
Yeah.
So there was like a period after MasterChef aired where I was like, I'm not posting anything because it's not going to be received well. And so all of these plans that I had were just like halted.
But you do this thing a year before.
Yeah.
And then it comes out.
There's also a lot of anxiety because you don't know what it's good like until you're watching it at the same time as everyone else, right? So it's like, how are you going to be perceived? How are you going to be edited? It's not pleasant.
How much were you expecting that, worried about that, thinking about what that reaction could be? Because it's a huge, vulnerable place to be.
Yes. And I think I went in very naively, if I'm my authentic self, that can only be received well, just because I'm being me. Everyone says, just be you.
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh. It's like the worst advice you can kind of give, but the best advice you can kind of give. Because it's like, just be you. Yeah. And then you go on national television and you're you. And you're just like receiving a barrage of hate for being you. And it's just like the smallest things that, when you watch that, I'd wear the same jumper, just in different colours, because it's a sensory safe jumper.
Yeah. All for it.
And I struggle with temperature regulation. But in a studio, it's fine. We were filming in the dead of winter. So you wear a jumper because you're queuing outside before you walk into the studio. And it's like December. It's cold, right? You go in there with the lights, with the cooking, the hobs. By the way, it's a studio. It's not a kitchen. There's no extractor fans, right? So firstly, you smell everything. But the heat, along with all the equipment, I'm like sweating after this cook. Plus you've got the pressure, right?
Yeah.
So by the end of it, like my jumper is a little bit like this. And so the amount of people, women, that are like, oh, she's sexualizing herself so she gets through. Like, it's wild. And it's just like, actually, no, it's the only way I can regulate my temperature out of this left shoulder without taking my top off.
I'm blooming hot, guys.
Yeah, it's just wild.
Wow. I'm really glad that you went on, and I'm really glad that you were yourself.
Yeah.
Regardless of what ridiculousness can come from small-minded people.
I'm also glad that I was really honest about, I didn't present any food because, you asked me the question of, can I cook things that I can't eat myself?
Yeah.
And the question for me on the show was, can I cook and present foods in ways that I can't eat myself? So I can't eat rice and curry
together
in a typical way.
Yeah.
So I stayed true to that. I presented it in a tiffin, separated, the rice, the curry, the salad. And obviously, the further along you get in the competition, you run out of innovative ways in order to kind of present this in a deconstructed, because everyone hates the word deconstructed, but sometimes I need to deconstruct food. And all I can say is, as much hate as it got, and it got probably about 98% hate, the 2% it resonated with made it for me, because there were kids that were watching that and were like, Mum, that's like me. Oh my God, she can't eat that either. The 2% was great.
So if that was launching now,
yeah,
what do you think the reaction would be?
Wildly different.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That in like 3 years.
I think I was the first person to be open about their
Okay.
neurodivergence,
Okay.
especially their autism. And actually, since then, I think they have actively encouraged people to maybe talk about it.
Certainly seen it on Bake Off. We're
Yes.
big fans of Bake Off
Yes.
in our household,
Yeah.
and certainly seen that, people being more open, ADHD or dyslexia or,
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be open, but I don't think the television process at all, or media generally, is very neurodivergent friendly.
Yeah, I think
And
there's a lot
so-
of work that could be done there.
Yeah, and I think we have to go a long way to basically see a neurodivergent person win it and not go into burnout, because it's one thing getting far, but actually at what price? Because I was literally about to have a nervous breakdown. I went into such severe burnout. I had to leave the country. It was that bad.
Let's talk about Gregg Wallace. There's been a lot of talk about him in the autistic community. What was your experience?
So many things to say.
Let's have it.
Yeah, I complained about him 3 times. I'm not part of the complaints process, unfortunately. Yeah, not a nice human being. So he's actually very ableist, in my opinion. And at the time, I disclosed my autism and I didn't realise why he was so horrible towards me. He would do things like reset my timers. Just wasn't very nice. And actually, later on, it transpires that his son was autistic. And I think that's probably where the ableism came, because the way that he talked about his son in the media, I don't think was very nice. And I think if I was an autistic person that saw my parents talk about me in that way, I would be very upset. You know, he talks about mourning. He talks about,
Really?
Yeah, I was in a state of mourning after my son's autism diagnosis. It's all there. And it's just a shame because, he was part of an autism charity, an ambassador. But this is him actively saying these things on Loose Women. And it's really upsetting for me as an autistic person, because so many parents of autistic kids were like agreeing with him, like, yes, like it's a death sentence, He says things like, oh, my son will never kick a rugby ball. He's autistic. I think he's nonverbal or non-speaking, but he could still kick a rugby ball. He still has his whole life ahead of him. And, I have a son now, and that's made me even more passionate because, I have no idea whether my son will speak or not speak. And it really doesn't matter.
Sure.
Because, well, he signs already. He's 10 months.
Yep.
We have amazing communication.
Yep.
And I just wish people would stop holding everyone accountable to neurotypical standards and just, meet everyone where they're at.
There've been some really serious allegations, obviously, against Gregg Wallace, and some pretty damning comments or blaming autism, for example, or using autism as an excuse. What impact do you think that has society-wise?
I think it's so dangerous for autistic people like myself, because autism should never be used as an excuse for bad behaviour. But there's so many of us that just work daily and tirelessly to try and make sure that we're not offending people, fitting societal norms. That's why being autistic is so exhausting for me. And it's just like to say, I'll go about my life as normal, offending people, dropping my pants, saying rude comments. But, I'm autistic, so my neurodivergence should be taken into account. It doesn't fly with me. And I personally think that he has a lot of work to do before he can speak about autism. It's so interesting because it was quite clear he didn't like my autism. That's how he made me feel. And that was very much a mirror situation. And he reset all my timers, which I think is horrendous because that threw my cooking off.
Absolutely.
But do you know why he reset the timers? Because he hates the sound of the timer.
No.
And imagine doing a job for 20 years where you can't have a watch anyway. Everyone in the room has timers.
No.
So I was thinking, this is so ironic because, I'm the autistic person, but I have now come to terms with, okay, that blender's going off, that person's timer's going off, but I'm zoning in because I just need to focus on this ragu, right? Fascinating.
That is so interesting. Yeah. But thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think it's important to be honest because, I would never go public with these things. There was an episode where he was unwell and John came in and basically said, I'm sure you noticed somebody's missing today. Gregg is unwell. And my face is like, yes. Literally.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually like I clipped it and it went viral, right? And a lot is said with my face without saying any words. And just that alone got so much hate. Like, oh, another woman jumping on the back. Oh, is this you basically now pretending? You know, it's the gaslighting words.
Yeah.
But this is my truth. You know?
Oh, I've so enjoyed talking to you, Vanessa. Like your energy is great, and I'm a big believer in asking for what you need.
Yeah.
And in maybe you don't know what you need, but certainly being willing to kind of say what you need, and that not being diva-y, that not being difficult, that not trying to make people go out of their way.
Yeah. Or just being met with an open mind. I think that's the most important. I'm not expecting somebody to understand, but just to say, okay, that's your experience. I will try my best.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for what you're doing, because it's people like you that speak up and share the truth, the good bits, the bad bits, the difficult bits. Yeah, that do send us on this path towards people having more understanding. Last question.
Yeah.
Who would you like to give this green badge to?
Easy one. Has to be my son, because what a game changer it would be for every child to be authentically themselves from day one, and for their parents and the people around them to really understand. So yeah, my son.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, and it's my greatest wish for the next generation is that people can be themselves. It sounds so simple and trite and pithy and idealistic and all the rest of it. It's also so simple, and yet has been so unattainable.
Yeah.
But so important. And so the more parents there are that want to instill that or set an example for their children, or you know, we've got a wonderful 9-year-old who's sat in the control room. Shout out to B, our biggest fan. And I look at her and I see the future.
Yeah.
And it gives me so much hope.
Absolutely.
And I look at my daughters and I see the future, and it gives me a lot of hope. And so the more the merrier. Thanks, Vanessa. I got this feeling about chefs and ND and some sort of silent dinner. Thank you.
Thank you.